Welcome back to Nate the Hate, and today we're going to talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield and how a Pokemon Twitter troll failed in glorious fashion at making GameFreak look incompetent. So, in the past 24 hours, a Twitter user posted a 36-second video with some key bullet points that they thought made Pokemon Sword and Shield look like a bad game and also made GameFreak look like an incompetent developer. And what they did is they analyzed less than a minute worth of footage and then critiqued just various random bits of the video to say, well, look how bad GameFreak is at optimizing. Look how poor of a job they did with this game. And it backfired in spectacular fashion. Unfortunately, the backfire came a little late because the video has been viewed over 500,000 times, but it's now gaining traction in a different way because game developers across the world have seen the thread and they're coming to Game Freak's defense. So what the user did, they went to Twitter and they posted this description. Imagine selling a game with slowdown issues and really bad visuals for something on the Switch due to piss poor optimization and programming, and with so many corners cut it's not even funny. Game Freak really should have pushed for a delay. This is just bad. Now they continue in the Twitter thread to insult Game Freak and the programmers at the company by saying comments such as, Breath of the Wild, despite having frame rate issues, looked better and didn't have slowdown because the programmers weren't complete monkeys. Now, you can critique a game, but you should do it in a respectful manner. Insulting the programmers, you negate any point you're going to make. So now for the actual video they put up. These are the three main points they tried to illustrate with it. Point one is that the game has an extreme level of detail pop-in issues that affect the shading. Well, the issue with this is that the shading effects are actually a sign of optimization. Now, point two, they say texture and resolution is ridiculously bad for a 30 frames a second game that has no motion blur and it has slowdown. They then continue to say, on top of pop-in issues, characters are culled off from a distance, and this proceeds to show a character model vanish and then reappear. Now, all of these points were quickly countered by developers from Arcane Studios, Naughty Dog, Bethesda, a former Bungie developer, Cryptic Studios, and a handful of indie developers. So the statement that they made about the models being culled off from a distance, a developer replied, "This is literally how every game works. Fire Emblem Three Houses had a similar 3D view as Pokemon Sword and Shield, and people not only popped in, they spawned at mid-level of detail barrier. Nobody cared." And they are absolutely right. Fire Emblem isn't a technical showpiece. It isn't a game you marvel at the visuals or even the technical performance of. Fire Emblem is a gem because of its gameplay. It's not a game you look at and say, wow, I can't believe how beautiful this game is. You enjoy it because of what it offers. It has pop-in issues. Characters just appear out of nowhere in the screen. And yet, it didn't seem to bother all that many people. Now, other developers, they weren't as nice. This particular developer was quite harsh in their statements, but, justifiably so. This developer says, let the armchair developer develop. They have zero sense as to what it takes and what a platform is truly capable of, not to mention world design specs. And that zero matches what we should care about this person's opinion. Another developer went on to say, look at all those C-class or non-critical bugs. How could you release something with checks notes? Minor issues that might actually be tied to hardware limitations. I think you can sense the sarcasm coming from that one. Another developer said, well, to be fair, the cutoff distance for the character seems pretty short. But it seems the video is at the border from two zones, so this might be why. And that's an excellent point. What the video does is that it tries to showcase these shortcomings, but doesn't give you context. If it is a case of two zones, which it clearly is, you see the character walking from one to the other. As soon as it enters the new one, the character appears. If you retreat back into the prior zone, the character vanishes. But that's just because it is two different zones. This is quite common in games, but the video would have you believe it was because of GameFreak's incompetence at programming and testing and a multitude of other programming failures. It's not a glitch. It's purposely designed that way. And finally, the last developer says, wow, are they really being nitpicky about things like this? Yes, they are. And that's what we've hit with Pokemon Sword and Shield. We have hit the nitpicky phase. We've had problems with the Pokedex, the visuals, the textures, the list goes on. And now that the game's almost out and some video has leaked, we're going to nitpick every other thing the game has. We're going to say Game Freak's lazy again. We're going to have people say they're incompetent. And the truth is, they're neither of those things. Does Pokemon Sword and Shield have valid areas that should be critiqued? Absolutely. Every game does. But if you're going to critique the game, you do it respectfully and you provide constructive criticism. Constructive criticism isn't negative. It's just critique. Critique can be done in a respectful manner where it isn't belittling to the developers, where it isn't insulting. And what we're seeing from a vocal minority base within the Pokemon community is that these people are insulting. They're attacking. They're abusing and they're harassing. So don't call yourself fans. You're not fans. You're just bitter, angry, entitled individuals who think they know how to make a game, who think they can make a better Pokemon game than Game Freak. And if that's the case, step up. Step up, become an indie developer and make a better Pokemon game. Otherwise, learn some respect. Learn to critique the game with respect. And if you do so, the rest of the community will respect you. Every game developer can grow. Every game developer can learn. And they're always willing to listen if you do it the proper way. So with Pokemon Sword and Shield coming out later this week, I invite everybody to go to Twitter and use the Thank You Game Freak hashtag and let them know you appreciate their efforts, especially now more than ever. The pressure that has been on the development team with Pokemon Sword and Shield has been monumental. And a few words of appreciation will go a long way, because right now they've been dragged down with hatred and anger from so many people that just knowing that, there's some people out there grateful for what they do will probably really brighten their day. That's all I have to say on this topic. If you like the video, give it a like. If you dislike, give the video a dislike. Subscribe to the channel. And this is Nate the Hate reminding you that education and intelligence aren't the same thing.